individual was going the correct direction on the
Yes.
highway and one individual was going the wrong way on the
Yes.
highway? Okay, and you say the one person tried to swerve.
Correct.
Was that the person that was driving the correct way on the highway?
Yes.
Okay. And this was I-30, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What did you see when you saw the two vehicles collide?
Just the collision happened, smoke, not like it was on fire, but like something had got hit really hard. And you could see the debris, lots of debris. That's what would probably cause the smoke.
And then what did you do once you saw this?
I just immediately pulled over. After I got off the ramp right there, I just pulled straight over to the side of the freeway and got out of my truck and ran across the freeway to the car,
Okay. Which car did you go to first?
to the victim's car.
Okay. And what did you see when you approached the victim's car?
He was 75% out of the car, so his body was out of the car. His legs were still kind of in the car, but the whole side of his car was gone, depleted.
And this
He was
is,
laying on the ground, on his back.
this is who you describe as the victim.
Yes,
Okay. And you took some photographs
I
that
did.
day, correct?
I did.
And I think when we talked on the phone, you said you thought he might need them later, so you took photos for
Yeah,
him.
yeah, I don't know why, because I don't post. I'm not, I'm older now, so I don't do that, but I guess I just thought maybe he would want to see the collision that happened, or, that was kind of my thought process, probably at that point.
Judge, may I approach the witness? I'm showing you what I've marked as States Exhibit 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These were the photos that you took from that day, correct?
Yes,
At the scene right after it happened.
yes,
And these are true and accurate copies of your photos.
yes.
These have already been tendered to defense on TechShare, but showing them again, 2 through 6. State would move to admit and publish, Your Honor.
Any objections by the defense?
No objections to states exhibits 2 through 6.
All right, states exhibits 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are admitted for all purposes.
May I publish them, Your Honor?
You may.
Publishing States Exhibit 2. Is this the victim and his vehicle?
Yes,
Was he alive when you approached him?
so he was still breathing. His chest was moving, but kind of at a deep, kind of rapid pace, so it wasn't a normal breath like we are breathing right now,
And
but it was moving.
I believe you had told me before that you had worked as a lifeguard, is that right?
So, yeah,
So you have some kind of basic first aid knowledge, right?
yeah.
Publishing States Exhibit 3, we get a better picture of where Charles is outside of the vehicle, correct? And I'm sorry, just for the court reporter, she can't take mm-hms.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. What injuries did Charles have that you could see when you approached him?
When I approached, I could tell that his legs were broke, I could tell his arms were broke. And then he had a gash on his skull that I could see once I got down to him. That was pretty deep.
Did you try to help him?
Yeah, so I had a shirt on and a jacket on, and I took my jacket off to get my tank top off, and I just used it to apply pressure to his head only, because I didn't want to touch the rest of his body.
And that was to try and stop the bleeding?
Right.
Did you call for help as well?
I did, kind of at the same time, but I was just trying to hold the shirt on there, watch his chest to see if it stopped moving, and on the phone, so I don't know how much talking I actually did to the 911, but she knew there was an accident, yes.
And did other people try to stop and help?
One guy stopped after I had been there for a while and, brought something out of his truck to help me to hold on his head, yes.
And then publishing State's Exhibit 4. What are we seeing in this photo?
That's the front of his car, so I think that, that's when the medical team was there, you can kind of see their jackets. So they had finally got there.
And then publishing State's Exhibit 5. This is just another photo of the victim vehicle, where we see an ambulance in view, correct?
Yes.
And then publishing State's Exhibit 6. Is this after they had taken Charles in the ambulance?
Yes, it was after, because I stayed after the fact for my statement and stuff, so yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, after you tried to help Charles and you called for help through 911, did you end up checking on the wrong way driver?
I did, so, when the trucker got there, and kind of took over with him, I ran down to the other car.
Okay. And what did you see when you ran down to the other car?
So, she didn't have any clothes on at all, nothing. Tried to open the door and couldn't.
Okay. And what did this woman look like?
White woman, brown hair, not light, kind of pale, maybe skin. It was kind of hard, it was dark outside, but I remember what it was, yes.
And where was she sitting in the vehicle when you approached her?
So initially, I tried to look in the driver's side, and she was almost trying to go into the back seat, the middle of your car. It's almost like a child that goes from the front to the back. She was kind of trying to go to the back seat and just moved as I went around the car. She moved to follow me as I went around to check all the doors.
Did you try talking to her?
Yes.
And did she respond to you in any way?
No.
How would you describe your impression of her demeanor?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation, calls for speculation.
Openly.
You can answer.
I can answer, okay. Just her face, very glossy. Her eyes were very, bugged out, just, like a deer in headlights, non-coherent. Yeah.
And I think when we talked before, you had described her as, and it seemed like she was high. Is that still your belief of when you looked at her?
Yes.
Okay. And what was it about the way she looked that made you think she looked high?
For me, it was more so, just a blank stare, like totally, disconnected with what had just occurred, with the situation, totally just, I guess that's a word, disconnected. Just in a glaze, in a daze, not blinking, eyes not shutting, none of that.
After you tried to help her and she wasn't really responding to you, what did you do next?
I just kept trying to yell through the car, go around the car, like, open the door. I didn't know if she was hurt. I didn't know if her car had gotten hit hard enough where maybe it was going to I wanted to get her out regardless. So I was just banging on every window, open the door, but she couldn't understand what I was saying or anything. So that's all I was doing, was just like getting her to, trying to get her to open the door.
About how far down did her vehicle come to a rest from where Charles' vehicle was?
About 100 yards probably, football field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the collision, she just kept going straight?
Yes, the car kept moving, yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Hi, have a couple of questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So initially, when you saw the impact that happened on December 17, 2020, your first thought was, let me take pictures because he may need this for accident purposes, correct?
No, it wasn't the first thing that I did know.
Was that the reason for you taking pictures, because he may need this because it was an accident, correct?
No, it wasn't my initial thought.
But was it a thought that you had?
Probably, it was a thought after the fact, after, help was there and all of that, yes.
And so, your testimony, when you saw this on the freeway, it was an extreme accident. Would you characterize it like that?
I feel like it was a terrible accident.
And when you stated that you went to the other vehicle that was further down after the crash, you came upon the white female that was in the car, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any personal knowledge dealing with, in the medical field, to know if someone is high or on drugs just based on their physical appearance?
I don't have any experience in the medical field. However, I am born and raised here in Dallas, and I have been around a lot of different people, and I know what it's like to be incapacitated on certain items, and I felt very confident. If I would have saw that person anywhere, I would have known something was terribly wrong.
Now, based on the impact of the crash, could it be that that person was, the facial observations could be because of the impact of the crash that you just saw?
No, ma'am.
Why are you saying that?
Because her eyes were bulged out. It wasn't, there was an injury. There's no doubt in my mind that there was something else going on.
So from your assessment, you didn't see any injuries on the person that you saw in the vehicle, the white female, is that correct?
Not obvious injuries like I saw with the victim.
Okay. And as far as the blank stare and the person seemed high, it could possibly be that the person was just involved in a tragic accident or impact from that particular collision.
I would think that if she wasn't naked in the car.
Okay.
That was a little bit, I just feel like you wouldn't be naked in the car if you just had an accident where you should have your clothes on.
Okay. And again, you don't know why the person was not clothed, is that correct?
No, ma'am, I don't know why.
And you don't know where that person was coming from or anything leading up to that particular accident, correct?
Correct.
And you don't have any training in the medical field to determine if someone is high based on their appearance at that time, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And going to the early morning hours of this particular accident, was there traffic on the roadway?
No.
Okay. And so you stated that when you were getting on the on-ramp of the freeway, there was one vehicle that passed you. Can you say whether or not how many other cars were on the freeway prior?
None. When I was getting on the freeway, there was literally just one car that was right before the victim's car, and the victim's car. There was no other cars that had passed. No other cars the whole time with me getting on the freeway or pulling over. No cars passed.
Can I have 1 second, please?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor, pass the witness.
All right, state,
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
may this witness be released?
No objections from this end.
No objection.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You're free to leave.
Thank you.
for me, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Statement proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Ms. Ward.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your full name and spell it for the court reporter?
Yes. My name is Rebecca Bradbury Ward. That's Rebecca, Rebecca, Bradbury, Bradbury. My last name is Ward, W-A-R-D.
Now, Ms. Ward, you are the oldest sister of Charles Hudson, correct?
Yes,
In fact, you are the eldest of all of your siblings, right?
correct.
How many siblings do you have, ma'am?
Currently, I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters.
And it was 11 total growing up, correct?
Correct.
Where did you and Charles grow up?
We grew up in a small town in Sunflower County in the Mississippi Delta in Moorhead, Mississippi.
Okay. What was life like growing up there?
Well, I grew up, my parents and my brothers and sisters, we all grew up on a plantation. So we worked hard, we had chores every day, and we all knew what our jobs were. But I was the caretaker for my siblings because my parents worked. My mother worked in what I would say the boss man house, but she worked in Mr. T.A. Murtag's home, and my dad drove tractor on the farm.
Okay. And you were sharing with me some great memories about how y'all always had a warm meal on the table.
Yes. For 12 years of my life, for 12 years of schooling, we always had a hot meal before we left home every day. Breakfast every day.
Now, Charles was a military man, correct?
Correct.
When did he join the Army?
He joined the military in 1977.
And he retired from the Army, correct?
Correct.
So how long did he serve?
A little over 20 years.
That's a long time. Can you tell me a little bit about his service to the country? Was he ever deployed?
Yes. He was deployed in the Persian Gulf War for the duration of the war. And he came home right after my mom passed away. And the day he called home to let my mom know that he was fine and he was coming home and the war was over was March the 10th. And that was the day my mother had passed away. So when he called, we had to tell him she had passed away.
What did he do in his civilian life when he retired from the military?
When he retired here in Texas, he became a phlebotomist.
And I believe he worked as a medic in the Army, is that right?
That is correct.
So that was kind of a natural transition for him.
Yes.
Now, I want to direct your attention to December 17th of 2020. Do you know what your brother was on his way to do that morning?
He was on his way to work.
Pretty early in the morning, right?
Yes.
And that was working as a phlebotomist, right?
Correct.
And do you recall where he was working as a phlebotomist?
No, I did not. I know that I probably have it in my notes, but no.
That's okay. Was it a blood bank or just maybe another type of facility? You don't remember?
I do not.
That's okay. But you do know that he was on his way to work that morning.
That is correct.
Did y'all talk often?
At least twice a month.
Okay. When did you first hear that something had happened to Charles?
My oldest brother, Willie Hudson, called to tell me, and when he told me, I told him, that's not true, you're lying, and I hung up on him. And so he called back. That's when I found him.
And then who told the rest of the siblings in the family?
Well, being my big brother as he is, he asked me what I called him, and I proceeded and called the rest of us.
Now you provided a couple of photos of your brother. Judge, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
I'm showing you what's marked as States Exhibit 7 and States Exhibit 8. Are these of your brother, Charles Hudson?
Yes, they are.
And these are true and accurate depictions of what
Absolutely.
These have already been tendered to defense, but tendering again, states 7 and 8.
Yeah, I have no objections to State's Exhibit 7 or 8.
All right, State's Exhibit 7 and 8 are admitted for all purposes.
May I publish them, Your Honor?
You may.
Publishing States Exhibit 7. We see Charles proudly wearing his U.S. Army hat. I believe for some time he worked as a recruiter, is that right?
That is correct.
For the military, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, he worked in a high school recruiting young men and women for the military. And he was most excited about that job.
And I believe he inspired one of his nephews to join the Army as well?
Yes, one of my great nephews is now in the military serving in South Carolina. And he just got back from Africa in February.
Wonderful. Publishing States Exhibit 8, this is another photo of your brother, correct?
Yes,
Did y'all have his funeral here or back in Mississippi?
his funeral was here in Texas.
Okay.
And he's buried at the National Cemetery for veterans,
Okay, and that's only a cemetery for veterans.
as far as I know.
I'm gonna have you do one last thing before I let you go, if you don't mind, just for identification purposes, okay? Judge Mayer, for the witness. I'm not going to publish this photo, but I need you to just identify, if you recognize this person in States Exhibit 9, okay?
Okay. Yes, that's my brother.
Okay. Just for record purposes, the witness is identifying States Exhibit 9 and autopsy photo as her brother.
Any objections?
I'm not gonna admit it right now.
No objections for record purposes only, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit 9 is admitted for record purposes.
I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, defense?
Ms. Ward, I have no questions either, and sorry for your loss. No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you so much.
May this witness be released?
No objection from defense, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You please step down.
Thank you.